For this video, we're going to do a side-by-side comparison with the original Pac-Man motherboard versus the BitKit2. We're going to compare using the 5th key pattern. Here's a little chart I created to keep track of which patterns we use throughout the keys. You can see the 1st through the 4th key, we're going to use the same pattern, the apple pattern that we were using. But then when we get to the 5th key, we're going to use the pattern, amazingly, called the 5th key pattern. And then for the 6th key, we're going to go back to the apple pattern for the last time, and then on to the 7th and 8th key, where we're going to use the 5th key pattern 2 more times, and then finally to the 9th key, where we're going to use the stacked pattern, and that's the pattern that's going to take us all the way to the kill screen. But for this video, we're just going to focus on the 5th key pattern. So the beginning of the 5th key pattern starts out exactly like the apple pattern. I'm going to pause it here for a brief second. You could see if you look at the original, we're probably about 2 or 3 frames ahead already. I think this had to do to how I was cornering on the BitKit, probably a little slower. And if you look at Inky, you can see his eyes are pointing to the left on the original, and on the right he's going down. So Inky's going to take a different route this time, but you'll see it's not going to affect the outcome of the pattern. So as I mentioned before, the 5th key pattern starts out exactly like the apple pattern. We're going to go down, we're going to grab these 2 pellets there. You'll see on the original I missed the one, and just as with the apple pattern, that's not going to make a difference in the outcome. So we're going to continue on up here, go up and around, come down, grab the fruit, and I'm going to pause here for a slight second. So this is the point at which the pattern changes. In the apple pattern, we would usually head up, but in the 5th key pattern, we're going to head down. And we're going to head down with a specific intention of trying to get Blinky to follow us into the tunnel. So in the original, you'll see that Blinky's down in the right-hand corner. So we're going to go straight down, we're going to get near him, and then turn around. And on the BitKit2, these are the 2 options that come up. You're going to see that Blinky is kind of down and around to the left. So we're going to just turn that corner a little bit and then head back up through the tunnel. The goal is to get all 3 ghosts, Inky, Blinky, and Pinky, to follow you into the tunnel. And you're going to see here that I was not successful on the original. So if we look on the original, I'm going to go down towards Inky and make a U-turn right here, right at this point. If you look on the right, on the BitKit2, I was turning the corner and going to the left towards Inky. In both cases, I want to steer the Pac-Man towards Inky, get kind of close to him, and then make a U-turn and then head back up in the tunnel. And the hope is that, again, all 3 ghosts follow you. So we'll go back to play here in slow motion, and we'll see that on the BitKit3, I'm going to be successful at getting all 3 ghosts to follow me in the tunnel. And on the original, I'm only get 2 of the ghosts to follow me into the tunnel. But again, either way, the pattern is still going to work. So we carry on, we let the ghosts follow us into the tunnel, and at this point we're going to go down and we're going to grab the energizer or the power pellet, whatever you want to call it, and you'll see the 3 ghosts are coming through the tunnel, and ideally when we get the energizer, they're going to go back into the tunnel and get stuck there again. This is why I believe they call it the stack pattern, because you want to get all the ghosts stacked together in the tunnel. So in either side, we're going to come around the corner here. We're going to grab the rest of the dots. We're just going to make a quick U-turn here. And then here comes the last part of the pattern. We're going to go up right here, and then we're going to make a turn to the left and a turn back to the right, so we can make it an easy pause right here. And then we're just going to wait a little bit and do the same thing, try to get them to follow us into the tunnel. And When we do the fifth key pattern properly, like you're going to see on the right, all three of the ghosts will follow us into the tunnel, and they're going to do that exact same U-turn when we go down and grab the energizer below. So they're stacked up in the tunnel. We're going to watch on the right where I did it correctly on the BitKit2. They're going to be coming out of the tunnel, and as I get the power pellet, they're going to make another U-turn and go back into the tunnel. And then we go to the rest of the board. And here's the finish. And that noise was a stack of 3/4. I'd keep 3/4 on the top of the Pac-Man cocktail machine just to keep track of the pattern I was using, because you would use the fifth key pattern, then the apple, and then 2 fifth keys. And if you look at the bottom of the board, you run out of space, and at some point you look down and there's all keys and you don't remember if it's the last fifth key pattern or you're going to go into the final pattern, the stack pattern. So I just use the quarters to help keep track of which board I passed. So the next pattern we're going to use is the apple pattern. We're going to use the apple pattern for the last time here. The previous video shows how exactly to do the apple pattern. But I noticed this one in particular, that's in between the fifth key patterns, is the hardest one to execute. For some reason, if the timing is just slightly off, it makes the ending a little bit harder. And you'll see in this case, both endings, I have to kind of use the alternate endings to finish out the pattern. But so this is one when you're doing the last apple pattern, just pay a little extra attention to how you're cornering. Otherwise, you're going to make the ending a little bit harder. As you see here on both games, I made it more difficult than it needed to be to finish out the board. So timing was slightly off. Now on to the second fifth key pattern. So we're going to do the fifth key pattern again. And again, it starts out just like the apple pattern that we just did. Come out down and around, grab the 2 pellets. And in this case, my timing was pretty good on both the original and the BitKit. I can pause it to show it, but it's pretty spot on. So we're starting here just like the apple pattern, and then after we grab the key, this is where it changes. And get the ghost to chase us into the tunnel. We're going to go back into the tunnel. We're going to pause here, let him chase us into the tunnel again. We're going to back up again, and then we go and finish out the board. I find the fifth key pattern, once you get used to it, is actually easier than some of the later apple patterns. So this is the last time we'll be using the fifth key pattern, and just like the last board, there's all keys at the bottom. So to keep track, that's why I have a little stack of quarters to remind me that this is the last time I'm going to use it. You'll see here on the right, the BitKit2, I missed the 1 dot, and I'm just going to still carry on with the pattern. And in both of these cases, actually, my timing was not really good at all. So you see here when I go to try to get the ghost to follow me in the tunnel, pretty good on the right, not so good on the left. I have to move around. But the good thing about the pattern, if you just kind of do the same thing, you might have to modify a little bit. You can still clear out the board. But if you're looking at a good fifth key execution, look at the last time I did it. It was a lot better than this one if you're looking to learn the pattern. Both of these recordings were from the cherry pattern all the way on through the 9th key, so I definitely made some mistakes. So now we're going to do the stack pattern. We're going to save this for another video, but I'm going to run it through if you're learning them together. So we just completed the 21st level, so now we're going to use this pattern from level 22 to level 255. It's a pretty easy pattern. But we only have to execute it perfectly another 235 times, and then we'll get to what they call the kill screen or the split screen. So it's just repeating this pattern over and over and over again. In the Pac-Man forums, they call this the desert, where you're just running this same pattern over and over until you get to the finish. It took me quite some time to be able to run it for about 3.5 hours to get to the last screen. Hope you enjoyed.